As a lifelong author, I have often drawn inspiration for the more chilling of my tales from my own experiences as a young man living in Louisiana after the Civil War. Or the story of Ezekiel Holloway, that I have not dared tell before now.
The Haunted Mansion video game is a game that was released on GameCube, as well as PlayStation, Xbox, and Game Boy Advance in 2003 for North America and 2004 for Europe and Japan. Also, this was released in October of 2003. The Haunted Mansion film with Eddie Murphy was released approximately 1 month later. So this version of the game is based upon the ride at Disneyland and not the actual film, The Haunted Mansion. It sees you playing a character who goes to the Haunted Mansion and tries to find his way through so he can capture the souls of all of the 999 ghosts that were locked away in this house by a guy that was trying to take over the afterlife. The game then sees your player Zeke take a lantern that can fire off spirit bolts, and you run around fighting ghosts and capturing spirits that fall out of various different areas within the map. One of the more annoying things generally is that in order to get these spirits to show themselves, you have to run around and click interact on every single item around every single area. Otherwise, you're just not gonna find these souls, and I find that to be pretty boring, because there's nothing more boring than going from like a cool, like shoot these ghosts type experience to then just having to run around spamming the interact button on everything in the vicinity. I think that generally speaking, the shooting and whatnot mechanic towards the various ghosts and the way that you lock onto them actually works fairly well, and it feels pretty decent, almost like a fine third-person shooter from back in the day. But there isn't much variation on the gameplay outside of that. You do have certain other enemies like spiders, and I will admit I am extremely arachnophobic, and so I had to hand off the controller a couple of times because you start with having some small spiders, which are fine, and then you have these giant spiders that will just drop on you out of nowhere. And I can say that there is definitely a little bit of atmosphere to the game. It does have a lot of dark corners, and there are secret passages and whatnot that you can find different collectibles, as well as death certificates and things along those lines. I think generally speaking, for the first couple levels that we played, the level design wasn't too bad, and particularly at the beginning when you get into the staircase room and you have to like go into a painting in order to get to the next level, I thought that was kind of clever, but again, you only find this out through going around and spamming B on everything. And the combat is not varied at all outside of what enemy you're fighting. You use one weapon the entire time as far as I can tell, and you just go around trying to capture these souls. Again, because it is dark and whatnot, it sets up an atmosphere that feels like it is kind of creepy. However, it doesn't really kind of capitalize on the creepiness aspects, except for the spider bit if you're like scared of spiders like me. And I will say there was one really interesting area in, I think it was the piano room or something along those lines, where there are books that you walk up as like almost a staircase or a walkway that kind of start going in front of you and creating a pathway in front of you as you walk through it. I thought that that was an interesting part, and it had like a platformer type experience that made it a little challenging at times, but you know, once you kind of got what it was doing and the path it was going for, it was pretty easy to get down. Generally speaking, the story is not very interesting, and I mean, listen, knowing that it was based off of just the ride and it came out before the movie, I can understand there's not like the Haunted Mansion isn't exactly like that in depth when you go on the ride in Disneyland or whatever the fuck, so it makes sense that they kind of just went with some generic type plot and then just kind of ran with it. Alright, well anyway, that's my opinion on this. I would give this 2 out of 4. It's kind of mid, there's not much variation on stuff, and the parts that I don't like are, you know, annoying enough that I'm like, meh, but it's not horrible, and for the hour that I played it, it didn't go by too slowly. Alright, Jason, over to you.
Haunted Mansion, a game that was released 1 month prior to the Eddie Murphy movie, but has nothing to do with it, and centers more on the original Haunted Mansion ride. This game stands out as an arachnophobic's worst nightmare. Haunted Mansion is a third-person action-adventure game that has you using lanterns to shoot light balls, projectiles, just something, and sucking up spirits / sperm donors till you have enough to go to the next room of the mansion. The voice acting is pretty subpar at best, but the controls feel fluid, and for a game that dropped in 2003, it's not a terrible game to go back to. I definitely enjoyed the variety of levels and unique platforming challenges Haunted Mansion has. One room you are placed on a giant pool table, in which you see a large hand aim the white ball in your direction with the goal of trying to move around so that it aims the white ball and hits all the solids in the pockets. Given the fact that endless swarms of ghosts attack till you accomplish this, it can be quite challenging but enjoyable as well. One annoyance that both me and Rocky found was the constant need to press the action button on every piece of furniture to try to find the spirits you need to collect. The biggest reason why is the game does not tell you whatsoever or even indicate where these spirits might be, so you're just clicking the action button on everything. There are also pieces of a death certificate you find which will increase your health, as well as fortune cards that I honestly couldn't figure out what they did. You encounter both small and large spiders, flying dishes, ghosts, and other various enemies throughout that aren't endless unless you exit a room and re-enter. The puzzle mechanics are pretty dope and does take some thinking to figure out. I enjoyed Haunted Mansion for what it was during our first impression, and honestly, if you can pick the game up or find it by various other means, it's definitely worth playing even in 2023. I'm giving Haunted Mansion 3.5 out of 5 and would definitely continue playing this game. Now I'm going to toss it back to Rocky to close us out.
Alright, well, thank you guys for joining us during this gaming session. If you did enjoy, please press that like and subscribe button for more content like this in the future. Also, in the comments down below, if there's any other old games on like any consoles that you want to recommend to us to like do retro reviews on, definitely let us know. And on top of that, we have Smokin sessions, a place where we do similar content to this, except we do it in the vein of movies and whatnot. So if you want to be kept in the loop of all things media, like and subscribe here, as well as like and subscribe over there. And I will see you all in the next gaming session.
I spaced out of my head to the depths of the universe. It's a spell or a chance just to open up a newer curse.
Zeke.